dealing with people who may say, listen, things were not transparent, it wasn't above board, it went against the rules and the procedures. Bring us up to date. I mean, you are now officially confirmed and installed as the Congress of the People's political leader. What does that mean for those of us who are on the outside looking in, especially in this election season?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to clear up a lot of mischief that has been put by people who are responsible for the condition of the COP. It has been, at the very best, in dormancy for some time. And I've been asked over a long period of time to come back to help restore it. I did, after much encouragement. And when I came back, in the normal protocol would have been, and which was done by Mr. Senate, who I must pick up, bow to him to the extent of his magnanimity, but being full well, unfortunately, didn't have the cooperation necessary to move the party forward. And I decided, look, others are just holding space and not exercising their responsibility within the party to ensure that the party itself was living up to its constitution. And there was complete failure on that level. So I said, you know what, let me come and try and restore this thing. And I was appointed deputy political leader. Another person who was making a lot of trouble was removed as deputy political leader. Mr. Senate resigned at the normal convention. By the National Council, which they have not been able to hold in over 4 years, and it's a requirement to have it every 3 months. I came to help ensure that the programs are operational and that these meetings are held according to our constitution. The person, in a large part, together with others responsible for the failure, is the person who then said, no, the constitution requires, when full well, that it could not have achieved a quorum for National Council, and therefore put me to that test. Guess what? Within a short period of time, after 4 years, we were able to have a properly quorate National Council on Saturday evening that almost unanimously voted to support my elevation to political leader of the party. So there are stumbling blocks by people whose ambitions are not that of the COP, not that of the country, and only out to make trouble. But we will deal with it. We got even on Saturday a letter from a lawyer, a close associate or relative of the troublemaker, threatening some swift come, because if they do come, and I want to see them in a witness box, so serious questions to be posed. So I'm not afraid. We move forward. The Congress people is back. We are mobilizing. We are strengthening ourselves and taking our space in the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago.
That sounds great. My master controls, tell me if you can just speak up a little louder. I don't know if we're getting, but if you can talk up louder, really appreciate that. I know.
Of course, it's any better because, this is as loud as I can get without shouting. Whatever it takes, I'll help.
All right. That should be better. Yeah, you know, looking at it, of course, many people have weighed in and said, listen, the party has been around. It has been stagnant for quite some time. And certain moves by individuals quite questionable as far as, are they smelling political blood in the water? Are they now starting to lay claim to it? And just moving forward, just how are you able to deal with this?
There'll be opportunities everywhere. I'm not unaware of that, but my function as the political leader of a party that I loved and cared for with many others, and took it from a position that people thought it would have evaporated in 2007 after the election, to a tremendous force again at partnering with our partners into the partnership, and we were able to have achieved and delivered on our manifesto, if not all, most of what we had hoped for in our manifesto. Having said that, of course we know there are those who want to lay claim to all sorts of things, but I believe in hard work, blood, sweat and tears. who is what and what value we bring to the politics. And we need, I make it abundantly clear up front, this COP cannot run on its own. It needs to do whatever we must in partnership, but it is how we partner and how we collaborate in terms of ensuring that there's mutual respect and a sense of balance. So I use the analogy, and I think it's a fit one, that the COP is not a sticker that you can just place it on something and say that, you are together. No, it has to have depth, it has to have breadth, it has to have weight, it has to have substance. So if there are negotiations, it must be on a almost level playing field, so that whatever comes out of it, there will be checks and balance on each other as we move forward to restore some level of trust in the political.
Yeah, and if you could expand on that, because I mean, what you're saying here is basically what you said before. You said the priority was to fix the party first before considering whether the party would enter any coalition to contest the upcoming general election. Now, is it a matter of fine-tuning? Is it a matter of setting something that is going to bring about this political attractiveness? What exactly? Because, I mean, you must have political demographics, what your aim would be, what your target would be, what basically you have to offer the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Is all of this being considered before saying, listen, I am going to form or become a part of any alliance or any group moving forward?
The COP must never be seen to be cap in hand. It is too much of an honorable and dignified task to become that. We are not mendicants, we are not beggars. And therefore it is our duty to look after our business, to strengthen ourselves, and to ensure that when we go forward in partnership with others, we bring real value to ensure success wherever we choose to run in collaboration with our partners. I make that clear up front. I do not want it to come as a surprise by anyone to believe I'm saying the COP can run on its own. We've had that experiment repeatedly, and it has failed because the country is not ready yet for that level of a COP winning on its own. Maybe it had that opportunity in 2007, we reached close, but having learned from that, very practical. And I don't want it to be suggested that we are here to damage anybody on the political landscape. We are here to build, to create a magnetism, and we can do it in a short period of time. We must do all that we can and then negotiate appropriately and know full well what we have, and therefore the negotiation must reflect that. As I repeat, we are not a sticker, we are not here for decoration to say that we exist and therefore we are entitled. No, I believe, I learned from my father and his father before him, it is by the sweat of thy brow man shall eat bread. I want to earn the right to own political space.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Amala. I mean, you have a thriving legal practice. You can basically stay within the realm of things, I don't want to say safe zone, but what has inspired you now to actually come back and take the helm of the party and actually go out there and say, listen, I believe Trinidad and Tobago needs the COP at this time? What was it that sparked that had ignited that for you to say, you know what, I want to be a part of this?
It's a very personal decision, because I've been saying, and I don't forgive me if I get a little bit emotional.
Go ahead.
I love this country more than you could imagine. And my first drop of water, my first breath of air came from this land. And I do not want to leave here. I want to live the rest of my life. I crossed 60 and therefore everything matters now in terms of mortality. I want my last days to be here and my last drop of water, my last breath of air to be that of Trinidad and Tobago. And I look around and I love children, not just relatives, I mean all children. I love the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I cannot sit by and allow the demolition of all the things we are grown accustomed to fail in terms of our own personal security, in terms of energy security, food security. The economy is in shambles and a host of other failures. I must participate as best as I can, as humbly as I must, to try and fix this thing. Not just so, as I repeat, for me, not just for this generation, but for the next. Mikey, I do not know if I'm overstating it, but when I say people agree, the trajectory of Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time maybe 2 or 3 steps away is that of Haiti. And if we do not grab it now by the scruff of the neck and say enough is enough, all of us, the good, the only division I want is good versus evil, the good and the lawful against the lawless. That's the only division I want in this country, and we must save it now. There is no tomorrow in this, Things are, I couldn't believe the pace at which this country fell from one of the most vibrant economies, one of the best places on the face of the planet. Short years ago, it's one of the worst, and the trajectory is downwards, and I'm not seeing a glimmer of hope on the horizon, and therefore hope shouldn't just come on its own. We have to create that. And I agree with you. It is a terrible responsibility to give up one's practice. Again, I did it in 2000, at the height of my practice. I regained a whole different niche into the practice. I do mostly civil work now, and championing the rights, medical negligence. The divers issue is one, many that we do to help people. And I've created a bit of a team that may continue in some way with that work while they allow me the privilege to serve my country at a higher level. So it is self-sacrifice, but it is one that is worth it, and I call upon all patriots of this country to appreciate that this is not just about politics. This is not about who winning, It's about the people of Trinidad and Tobago succeeding. If we make the mistake of allowing 9 years of failure to turn into 15, well, then we should have deserved it.
Yeah, you have spoken out, of course, with the crime situation, the SOE. When you look at much of the legislation that has been implemented over the 9 years, with the intentions, according to those in authority, to better the lives of the citizenry, what's your take on that, especially from a legal perspective?
Listen, I'm happy you raised that. This country has more law than you could imagine, but more lawlessness than you could endure. We don't need more laws, What we need is putting the laws to effect, giving the resources, but more important than the physical resources is leadership and a sense of optimism and commitment that we love this country and we're going to fix it. Put fear into the lawless, the criminals, and I repeat this, it was a big disappointment. As you know, I really didn't criticize the Prime Minister or the PNM in the way that I really should have in the last several years. I said, look, give them a chance. It is tough, whatever. But I realized that none of the authority they hold, they have responsibility for. And when the Prime Minister, instead of standing up all the bajonism that we have been hearing for the years and had to endure, when he should have this SOE's declaration, say enough is enough, criminals, you're finished, we're coming for you, the state is bigger than any person, any group of people. What did we get instead? A whimpering, I am retiring. No, that was a perfectly wrong time for that. This is when we needed the bajon, the strongman kind of approach, right? And the SOE, unfortunately, did not realize, that is the government, that the country has been in a state of emergency for several years. And the thing, in terms of curfew, the citizens are in curfew for a long while. The one thing that is free now is the criminals to roam through the length and breadth of this country, do what they wish without any true consequence. I'm not saying, listen, we have really incredible police officers, but we have leaders in it, or the leadership of it, that doesn't motivate them. And when a Prime Minister yesterday could suggest that police are afraid and lock up in their police station, that might be true, but why you need to say that? Why don't you deal with that issue and find out why it is they're afraid? Because they don't have real leadership, and a sense that we come in after the criminals rather than the criminals can come after us. So that was a wrong message, because he spoke about the respect for the police. You think that speech or statement created respect for the police? Not at all.
I agree with you. I mean, now when they need to be inspired more than ever, one would think, why would you come and try to bring their morale down to the all-time low? And that's very unfortunate. I have to ask you again, now, how do you see the COP playing as far as being a component of something restoring good governance in Trinidad and Tobago? And I say this in the sense of, people would say things about the PNM and the fact of mismanagement and all these years, but one thing they seem to hold to is that political discipline, that not bringing out that dirty linen in public, whatever it may be. And of course, we've seen the cracks. We've seen the shortcomings, but we've also seen a sense of discipline where everyone falls into place, rank and file. And my question is that if there's an agreement to say, well, the COP needs to fight these seats, this is what's best for you, can you bring this home? Is this something that you will have to say, listen, I want to negotiate, or is it something to say, listen, just bring it on, as long as we're a part of it, and as long as we can restore good governance, we are all set and ready to do it?
Well, it is a combination of both, in terms of, I repeat, that I want to be involved in government. I do not want to be involved in politics of criticism, but one of answers and solutions, and the power to implement them. And that is why 2010, as much as people want to criticize it, but when you really analyze it, it was more propaganda than reality. So when this was a weakness, the Prime Minister removing ministers and so, that was a strength. That was a message of the COP. And for those who believe in accountability, if you do wrong or have serious allegations against you, you ought not to hold power until your name is cleared. And people saw it as a weakness. That is a strength. What has happened since? All the standards have fallen. So you could do what you want in government, and everybody could criticize and complain, but you remain with the authority and power. So we want to establish now, moving forward, that higher level of expectation, because we don't have the luxury of failure. The country cannot afford failure moving forward. And failure is not just in economic terms, or in the circuit, or in the suppression of crime. It's about improving the quality of leadership so that young people could feel proud, want to stay and live and develop this country, and look up to our leaders and say, I want to be like that. Dignified, honorable, trustworthy, straightforward, progressive, productive. These are words we stop using because we're so deep now in the sense of failure and loss of hope that we stop talking about those things. We're talking about pure survival now. Imagine Trinidad today, we're talking about survival. When we are one of the richest countries on the face of the planet, not just economically, but culturally. Listen, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, you know this. The warmest, kindest people. But now we've been pushed back into our homes, locked away, and even they're not safe. So there's a lack of trust that is emanating, that is literally infusing itself at every level of society. And the young people in particular, when they grow up being afraid, what kind of adults will they become? You don't want to go to the beach or even take a hike in the beautiful mountainside of Trinidad and Tobago because you figure you're going to get killed. You can't live like this. This is not about survival. It's more than just survival. It's about living and enjoying life. That has been sucked out of Trinidad and Tobago. We need to restore that. And whatever it takes, all those who want this for themselves and for their children and future generations, this is that time. If we don't do it now, I can't see us doing it later.
Yeah. Former political leader of the COP, Mr. Winston Dukaran, said this. He said that political opportunities are not circumscribed by process alone. There are other factors at play in a complex democratic change. And we've seen the change. I mean, not just locally, as well as regionally and globally, these changes are made where people feel as though, their belief and what they subscribe to needs to be a priority. Many would say that we have basically outlived our current constitution. It has become obsolete because, again, many of the changes that have taken place have not been considered or part and parcel of the policies that is being laid out by the authorities. When you look at this democratic change, how does one go about, of course, facilitating the request of so many people now who want to be identified in our society as being part and parcel of a productive movement?
If you do not believe you belong, you will not invest yourself in development. It's as simple as that. And it is amazing to know how many people feel dispossessed in the society, that it does not matter, nobody cares about them. No matter how loud they might attempt to speak, nobody listens. The politics must reflect all segments of society and at the end make decisions how we as a united country deal with issues. The Constitution, yes, and don't forget for a moment, Mikey, it is the People's Partnership who brought as its as its first tranche of constitutional change actually into the parliament. Today, had that succeeded, we would have had fixed election dates, right of recall, and the dreaded, as many have demonized this thing called the runoff. People never even understood it, but those whose voices were loud and empty demonized it. You know today what would have been the country's path? That the small parties in certain constituencies, you had to negotiate with them if you wanted to be sure you get 50%. And if you didn't get it on your own before, in the runoff, the voices that you speak about who would have felt dispossessed would have had an opportunity then. They had no choice but to negotiate with them. So their policies, their plans, their intent could reach into policy of government. And, that is why I had to reflect recently more than ever on the propaganda that had been launched on the COP, had been launched on the partnership, and repeated so strenuously for so long that people started to believe it. They spoke about corruption. There's corruption everywhere in the country at some point or the other. What did we in the partnership do? And one of the reasons the COP stayed in government, because we promised 5 years of delivery. And one of the most significant legislative change was procurement legislation.
Yeah.
To deal with wholesale corruption that has been watered down and the teeth in a large part taken out. So when they criticize, it's not just about what you say, but what you do. This is what we did. And I could go through the amount of successes of the People's Partnership.
And that's something that never seems to be revisited. I want to thank you this evening for bringing that out. And basically what you're saying, and we have to ask the question, of course, they say the past doesn't equal the future. Now, moving forward, and of course, bringing about all these plans, is it still going to be a challenge coming up to the propaganda? Because that propaganda, when you look at it, after the dust has settled, none of those things really and truly held weight. When you talk about the corruption, when you talk about how things were being governed, when all was said and done, it was basically fabricated. It was lies. Moving forward, more experience, you're more conscious of how the game is played. You understand the political battlefield a lot better. You know where the mines are. You know where the grenades are. Moving forward, is it going to be a lot easier? Or do you believe that you can still fall victim to the propaganda?
Well, let me say, one of the worst and strongest things in the world today is bad news and worse expectations. So I am not unaware of the challenges that we face. But thank God for men like you and others in the media who, against the odds, speak the truth, bring people who wouldn't have a voice, and to articulate these things. I don't know when's the last time we've had a discussion about procurement legislation and the People's Partnership and dealing with corruption. Right, as one example. But we need to keep repeating the truth, right? And so the propaganda will always be there. And in fact, the world has changed to the extent that it seems to dominate propaganda and falsehoods. But do we just give up? No. We continue to fight and ensure that not just you, but others are inspired by you to speak the truth in the communities, not just on the media, but in the homes. And let it be known, because against all of the criticisms of the corruption, and if we don't chisel that, we will, every time you hear about UNC or partnership, whatever, you hear about, other bills so and so, but how much money thief. If that is so, we call on the authorities to investigate and prosecute. And we gave the teeth to the authorities to do that. Integrity legislation over the years, right, has not been effectively used. The only time it's been used is against the Satande and a few others in the opposition, all the time in government, and very little else. So you wonder now, those who have the tools, how has it been used? And at the end of the day, even Tim Gopi, what a magnificent man, charged and prosecuted, paraded through the streets of Palestine in handcuffs. At the end of his case, you know what? The court said, but the offense for which he's charged is not known to law. I'll just give you an example. I've been involved in a lot of cases of political persecution, and it is a tool and a weapon, and that has been used. And therefore, it's in the airport, corruption allegations, but how much awful things have occurred in the last many years, hundreds of millions, billions. And nobody speaks about it. There seems to have been a numbing. And those ferocious persons who are looking for everything to be
You breaking up a bit. I don't know if you're moving, but you're breaking up a bit there. All right, you are breaking up. I'm hearing you better. Go ahead. Yeah, is it? I'll tell you what. Let me just take a quick break. I'm calling you back just to get your closing statement so we can get it clearly. So give me just a few seconds. Master Control, just give me a quick break and we'll make some changes. We'll be right back.
All top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware. Located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited.
All right, we're back. Thank you so much. All right, we have Mr. Ramada. 1 second. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Master Control, for fixing that issue. And for those of you on the outside, we do apologize for that. But I just did that. So let's see what happens here.
Your correspondent is
All
not
right.
reachable at the moment. Please leave a message after.
Let's see if we get that. Yeah. All right, Master Control, just give me a few seconds. Go right ahead.
Quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware. Located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Ramada is back with us. Thank you. Loud and clear?
Thank you so much.
A lot better. Thank you so much, Master Control. Good. So I know we picked up from the point again, looking at all that was said, all that propaganda that took place that 2010 to 2015, which was totally unfair. And I think it really and truly deprived the citizens of the facts of the matter, the work that was being done, things that were accomplished, things that were done to elevate the lives of the citizens. And you're right, today when you hear about the partnership, they seem to want to pin or taint it in some negative way. Moving forward, learning from that, what can we expect?
Well, we have to be a little more vociferous about what we do and ensure greater transparency. Everything that we do, procurement which we brought in must be used and shown that whatever contracts are given. Now, I am not naive to believe that there are not people who motivate themselves for corruption. But we put systems in place to mitigate, if not deal with those things.
Yeah. And you know, all of that, of course.
And transparency, that is crucially important. And more important than that, while we were busy producing, others were producing propaganda. We have to meet that up front and deal with it on a daily basis. We want the truth. deal with those false allegations. And if there are serious allegations and real ones, we must expose them ourselves. So, that is the only way I believe in truth. It has an incredible power, and people know it inherently. But propaganda, though, unchallenged, becomes a reality. No. And I think we were so occupied, and then in my own party, there was that continuous bickering to leave partnership, when we made a sacred promise to deliver in 5 years all that we could. So that distraction didn't allow us to really come head to head with the propaganda and show truth versus lies.
Yeah, it's quite a juggling act. Closing comments, go right ahead.
Trinidad and Tobago, to me and to many, is the most beautiful place on the face of this planet that we need to save, but we are destroying on a daily basis. None of our problems really are God-made or natural disasters as such. They are man-made, and if they are man-made, man can solve them. Other societies have come back from worse. El Salvador is the primest example of the highest crime rate in the world, highest murder rate, to the lowest in 4 years. It took a lot, but yes, there is a path to a better Trinidad and Tobago that we all need to work towards and encourage each other with the hope and commitment to sacrifice, yes, in some way, but the sacrifice will be worth it to make Trinidad and Tobago the one that we grew up in. The young people do not even know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I'm committed to it, and I'm hearing more and more people committed. And once we come out like this, Mikey, and you highlight and many others highlight that the good is far greater than the bad. The numbers of bad people in this country is actually very small, but it's growing because they've allowed it to fester and to blossom. We must put an end to that.
I agree.
That good will always outwit, outbeat, and succeed in the face of negativity and darkness.
Thank you so much for taking time out to being with us here this evening. All the best to you and your entire team, and we'll be checking in with you periodically. Keep up the good work, and let's get it started. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. We will do it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, and that was political leader of the Congress of the People, Mr. Prakash Ramada. Take a short break, very short. When we come back, we speak to veteran journalist Ken Ali. And again, Master Control, thank you so much for fixing that audio problem. We'll be right back.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware. Located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland. Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Master Control. Joining us is a gentleman who is no stranger to the Observer. Always good to have him on, giving us some great insights, what's happening with current affairs. Let me start off by wishing him a happy new year and all the best for 2025. And we're talking to none other than veteran journalist, Mr. Ken Alley. Pleasant good evening to you, Mr. Alley.
Good evening to you, Mikey, and your many listeners and viewers. Best wishes to you and everyone around for a highly successful and a safe 2025.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be quite a year, we want to say. A lot of activity. And again, I want to say hats off to you and your writing that's keeping us up to date with everything and the way you connect the dots. It's quite easy for us to have a clear idea of what's transpiring, especially in current affairs. Now, you're saying that under Young, the poor will get poorer. You said that Stuart Young is expected to be a big business prime minister with his family's entrepreneurial background and his own entrenched commercial interests, and is likely to become an even greater facilitator of large corporations than Dr. Keith Rowley. I mean, this is not good news. I mean, we have spoken about for the past 9 years how disconnected to the average citizen that this government seems to be, not having a level of understanding of what it is that the average person goes out there. When you could simply say that if you were closing a refrigerator door, all is going home, people on the bread line, what have you. I mean, is this basically something that is being engineered by big business, this big move? And if not, well, how much a percentage would you put towards that, saying that they are financial puppeteers who are basically pulling the strings?
Well, whether or not they're pulling the strings, they're going to benefit immensely. The first thing is we have to look at the backdrop against which Stuart Young is becoming Prime Minister and will lead the PNM to the general election. The gap between rich and poor in this country has never been wider. Big business is making billion-dollar profits. The banks are making billion-dollar profit. The fast food company reported $1.3 billion in revenue for the last fiscal year. This is historic. In many other sectors, the pharmaceutical imports with Agostini and so on. So the rich is making more and more money, and the divide between rich and poor, 80% of the national wealth is owned by 5% of the country. And more and more people are slipping under the poverty line. The cost of food has gone up by 65% since 2015, while public officers had to struggle for a 4% salary increase. The people in the informal sector, those people who sell as vendors and other things, they're on the run from criminals. So there's a lot of entrenched even more.
But I think there's always been this unwritten rule, that a level of understanding that, you know, the small man, as the term that we use here, the small man really and truly is not concerned about where the elite lives or what car they drive or where they vacation, as long as he's able to carve out his own niche. Now we see that is simply not the reality. Whatever little is there has been eroded, to the fact that when you look at the Fair Trading Commission, and I'm glad you mentioned that in your writing, one would think at least that there was some protection, something to give some sort of equity across the board. But when you have so many monopolies that have not, leaving the small man out in the financial cold, which is totally unfair, is that message getting to the electorate that, listen, those little benefits that you have, those things that you enjoy, that entrepreneurial spirit that you may have because you're tired of working and you say to yourself, I have a great business idea, but how much of it is going to become a reality for you if it is you're being jostled out of the entire thing?
Yeah, and if you're denied the opportunity, and you're correct in saying the small man has never bothered about the quality of life of the big man. They understand in any society there would be the movers and shakers and the investors and big entrepreneurs and so on. But when they are being chiseled out more and more and more, and they're the edge of society with high unemployment, high cost of living, rent has gone up, the cost of transportation. Remember, fuel prices went up 5 times. When fuel prices go up, the cost of food delivery goes up. Right? We've had rent has gone up, and all the matters that impact the small man has gone up in the last few years. And while the average person will say, yeah, well, of course, let big business, we understand there's a role for big business, but the number of people being squeezed out, when you look at the reports, the United Nations has produced reports and so on, which talks about poverty. They talk about children poverty, children unable to be well fed, going into school. That has led to some dropouts also, and in dropouts we've had situations leading to crime and so on. So as a society, Mikey, that's becoming more and more polarized and marginalized. And we see no one intervening. You know, there was a time when you would have institutions and organizations, you would have academia, you would have the trade unions talking out, you would have the lecturers from the university and various other people in media and so on. Mikey, we're seeing none of that anymore. And in fact, there are some people, like I said earlier, who are welcoming Mr. Young as the new leader and so on, without understanding that he's going to continue the same policies or the same programs that Dr. Rowley did. And under Dr. Rowley's watch, like I said, economically, the country and the statistics show that the country became most polarized than in its entire modern history.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Prime Minister himself who made the statement that, you know, the rich will get richer. I mean, with the hopes that they do something for the poorer class. That reality may be trickle-down economics. We've seen how that didn't work under Reagan. But the fact of the matter here, Mr. Ali, is that, you know, all of this that is taking place before us, this entire circus, when you look at it, that has transpired over the weekend, do you believe that everything is well now, everything is intact, and everyone is singing one song in the PNM, or is just a matter of some temporary arrangement that can erupt at any given time moving forward?
Well, it is temporary, but it could become permanent or it could become disruptive. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Dr. Rowley took some strong arm measures during the parliamentary meeting. First, in the retreat, there are some people who spoke out, and it is correct to say that Penny Beckles was presented as an alternative, and she got significant support, and she got certain people speaking very vociferously for her. When it came to the parliamentary meeting, Dr. Rowley took a very strong approach, as I said. And because of that, those who were batting for Penny Beckles Robinson eventually backed down. What is going to happen in the short term is that Stuart Young is going to get the support. There's going to be an artificial patching up of the relations inside the PNM. If he wins the general, if the PNM wins the general election under his watch, well, there's no removing him as Prime Minister. If the PNM loses, I think his tenure is going to be short. And remember that PNM National Convention is tentatively slated for September. If that takes place, if and when that takes place, if he's there as Prime Minister, he will be endorsed by the party. If he loses, I think once she's interested, Penny Beckles-Robinson could stand a very good opportunity of becoming Prime Minister. So there is an unholy alliance that is taking place, and the PNM now is in high gear. I think the election would be late in the second quarter, early in the third, either late June, I think, which would be quite early, or July, August. And so therefore, and if the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, says he's going to step down in March, I think Stuart Young would want the opportunity to cement himself, hold public meetings and address the nation on a few things and so on, and then call the election. So I think the party will hold together as it is until that, and then see what happens. If he wins, he stays on, and then of course he defends his term, and if not, well, I think there could be a big shake-up. Mikey, another issue to keep your eyes focused on is who he's going to carry as his general election candidate.
Yes.
Now, some people spoke out against him in a very vociferous manner in Tobago, in particular. Whether he's going to carry them, it'd be interesting to see. Whether, from 1991, when Patrick Manning rebuilt the PNM after the PNM was decimated in 1986, and Patrick Manning rebuilt the PNM in 1991, the remaining people are now moving aside. That is Fitzgerald Hines, Keith Rowley, and now you have a lot of focus on Colm Imbert. Whether in fact Colm Imbert, he was one of those that Mr. Manning brought in 1991. Whether he's going to stay on, he's 67 years old, and so until he would want to stay on possibly, but under a new leader, remember he has been slighted. He was the chairman of the PNM,
right.
He was the acting prime minister, and now he's just there. So we have to keep focused on who Stuart Young is going to take to the general election. The two women in Tobago are staying, Amory Brown is staying, is coming back, and there will be one or two other faces who are staying or are going, but they have just a few seats again to name candidates, and it'd be interesting to see who is going, whether Faris Al-Rawi, who took a strong line in Tobago, whether he would make the muster, or if not, who is going to replace those candidates.
Yeah, and again, so you're looking at Hines, you're looking at Mr. Imbert, some of the old guards who, it could be a cosmetic shake-up, or it's just a matter of saying, listen, the new prime minister may want some new faces on his team. So that's something that we have to look at as well. There's going to be quite a lot on the plate of Mr. Young. I mean, we're talking about the foreign exchange, challenge. We're talking about the crime. We're talking about the stagnant economy. All of these things. Now, he was there all along. I'm just taking a page out of the American politics. When the question was asked to the Vice President Kamala Harris, what would she have done different with her time that she spent there with President Biden? And she said nothing. She said, and I think that may have well helped course of the election.
Yes.
Mr. Young was there. He was there with all of these issues that we face. And I mean, it's a long list of things. And if it couldn't have been done in the 9 years, what can we really expect from him in this short window?
Indeed, and what he's going to do going forward. Now, he has hung his hat, and Dr. Rowley has hung his hat on the cross-border natural gas projects, the Lauren Manatee and the Dragon gas. Yeah. But you see what is happening with the politics in Venezuela. The incoming Trump administration has put a bounty on Maduro's head. Marco Rubio wants him out. So with him out, those projects could be jumping up in steel ban. We don't know exactly what is going to happen, and whether in fact, even if they materialize, whether they will materialize by 2027, by which time Dr. Rowley has said they would, because there is need for setting up the infrastructure. Shell has to go in and do all of those things. What happens between now and then? Of the 10 budgets that Colm Imbert has presented, 9 have been deficit budgets. That means we've borrowed to finance them. We've borrowed that our grandchildren children would be repaying. What are the options for us? And in addition to that, the electorate has to ask about the lack of diversification of the economy and so on. So all of that suggests that it will be more of the same, and that Stuart Young, who is very intimate with those cross-border projects. Remember, there was a time he was with Venezuela every week.
Yeah.
So he's quite familiar with that. I think he would use that as a major campaign theme, that listen, in 2 years' time, we're going to make this thing happen, and all of us will be singing and dancing in the streets. We're not quite sure that it's going to happen. You see what the politics is, and so on. So all of those are the issues I think the opposition could hit him with, that he doesn't have a plan. He was part of the team for all this time. And you're right, Kamala Harris lost the election when she said, I would not have done anything differently. And Trump hit on that and showed a number of areas in which the policies could have been much more forthcoming, including in the economy.
Yeah.
So he can't extricate himself from being a key man under Rowley. He was a vital person. He was a minister in the office of the Prime Minister.
Acting Prime Minister, even before.
Chairman of the ruling party.
That's right.
Minister of Energy.
That's right.
All of that. Yes.
So there's quite a lot on his plate moving forward. So I guess that they would want, of course, ring that bell before the electorate realizes that, listen, basically there's not much change coming. So what we're looking at here is a time frame that is very tight. A lot has to be done. I mean, smokes and mirrors, yes, that will be added. But the reality of it, would they be able to elevate the lives of the citizenry?
And that's the key thing. And they would make promises. If you revisit the 2015 general election manifesto, it speaks of a whole range of things, many of which were not delivered, including and in particular the situation with crime. They said they would use a whole of government approach to solve crime. Look where we are now. The Prime Minister saying that the police officers closed the police station.
Yeah.
And Mikey, that is almost similar to what's been happening in Haiti. In Haiti, they call it anarchy and a failed state. So all of that also is under the watch of Stuart Young. He was also Minister of National Security for several years.
So interesting times, my friend. Any closing comment? Go right ahead.
Yes, indeed. Over the next few weeks and months, will be critical in determining what happens to the country over the next 5 years. We've raised some of the critical issues. It'll be interesting to see how the opposition plays it and how the electorate responds. I think the opposition has a responsibility to be vigorous in how it prosecutes these issues. But over the next few months, Mikey, would be extremely critical for us as we move forward.
So true. Thank you so much again. Always great to have you on, and we'll be checking in with you periodically. Keep up the good work and keep it going. Keep flowing with that.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks you so much. Yeah.
Right.
Short break. When we come back, Master Control, we speak to UNC Senator David Nackett.
Chronic inflammation is important for so many conditions that occur.
I had a lot of pain 4 years ago.
I used to have pain in my knees, in my hip.
Taking it for arthritis.
Omega XL saved my life.
Then I started to realize, but hey, I could use my hands, I don't have any pain.
All in all, I am pleased to say that the Omega XL has worked.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Cane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Thank you so much, Master Control. Don't forget, folks, Strong Heart is an all-natural omega-7 supplement that has been shown in clinical studies to be associated with heart health by supporting healthy cholesterol and inflammation levels. Research has shown that increased blood levels of omega-7s is associated with healthy HDL, good cholesterol, and LDL, bad cholesterol, and C-reactive protein. Studies indicate that it supports overall heart health, so keep your love muscle strong with Heart XL. Pick up your bottle today. let me say a pleasant good evening and Happy New Year to UNC Senator David Nackett, who's online. Good evening, sir.
Happy New Year to you and your family, big brother Mikey K.
Yeah,
so nice to hear from you.
So good to hear your voice again. So much is happening, very interesting times, and you know, General, you always bring it from the ground. You said that PNM political hypocrites, Rowley, Young, and Griffith, well, I don't know what the begging for a job, are real dangers to Trinidad and Tobago democracy. Reject them all. You said that Penelope Beckles, Foster Cummins, Naya Gatsby-Dolly, and the rest of the so-called Black Caucus could cut their deals with blackface, white mask Rowley in order to satisfy the 1%. But the ground continues to rumble. You know, when you talk about the ground, you know, the ground itself seems to always politically sway in certain directions. And when you talk to some seasoned politicians, Senator Nackett, they will tell you, listen, I don't know how much trust or confidence I can put into the ground, because the perception is always that the ground is easily bought out. There's some pixie dust, here it is, and they change their tune immediately. What are you seeing different now that you picked up from the ground, and what message would you like to tell them?
What we can pick up from the ground, what we can garner from all the social media coverage, if you pay attention to the ground, if you listen to the anti-Twiggy, if you listen to people in Lavantil, people in La Hokata, they feel betrayed. Let me deal with that part first. They feel betrayed by this so-called jiving, shocking Foster Cummins, who always talking about black this and in a black church and praying, and when Penelope Beckles, and I'm not carrying no beef for anybody. I'm UNC, but you know, you have to look at I am from a PNM family and PNM community, and it's heartbreaking when you see a black woman who was poised and ready to possibly fulfill the potential that the PNM has shown in the past, but failed miserably to deliver in the likes of Rowley and Williams and even Bannon. You know, and Rowley was an abject failure. The potential never materialized. And you're thinking, well, at least Penny might be able to bring some kind of gravitas to our people on the ground in the East-West corridor, helping both African and Indian people, communities decimated by Rowley. And then you see these so-called black men. I say so-called black men, Mikey K, because when it was time to stand up for their sister, all of them fall like 2 cents roti. All of them fall like some 2 cents roti. Foster Cummins and what's the next one in? LaHunt and well, don't talk about Ford and Monroe. I mean, clowns, Leons and I mean, all of them fall up. All of them so-called black men never stood up for anything. Rowley come and rough them up for young. And my uncle and they laid out. My uncle and them picked and they laid out. They said, listen, they're not with that. That's why I say the ground rumbling. Don't study PNM trying to present this picture of unity and thing. The ground rumbling. When Auntie Twiggy talk about that, when my uncles and them talking about it, when Tuna talking about it, they're rumbling. Not because young is a Chinese. Not because they're not told, because young is a imps. And he pays dues. He's incompetent, useless, and they know that he represents what Rowley represented, which is the 1%. So it's nothing for black people again. And the ground, listen, one thing, my big brother, my Kiki, you can't fool the ground, you know. You're right about the ground tends to sway, and then people going, well, who sway more than Cummins on them? When time to stand up with some backbone for Penny, what they do? They fall up like some old roti. Them fellas and them. Disappointment. The ground not happy with them at all. Let Foster come and show his face, go up in Laukata and tell them why he didn't support Penny. Let Ford go in Puna and tell them why he support Penny. Let Mono go in Toka Sani Gandhi and tell the people in the crowd why they didn't support Penny. Why they fall up and just come like Siot Young to come now and help the 1% get richer. And black people suffering for the next 5 years. They're not having it, Mikey.
But Senator, let me ask you, what do you say to people who would say, listen, it's always been that way. I mean, it's always about towing the party line. It's never about you trying to outshine or trying to circumvent what the party's heads would have as far as this is what we have to do. This has been outlined. I want you to support this. I mean, really and truly, it's very rare that you would see certain individuals break rank and say, listen, this is what's best for Trinidad and Tobago. And so this is no surprise. Why would you think that it would make any different now?
Because they weren't the ones breaking rank. If you look at the Constitution, if you look at the process that should have been followed, it was Rowley and Young who broke out. Mikey K. You see, we're looking at it in the wrong way. They were adhering to how things were supposed to go. All of them, Jennifer Baptiste and Robert Lahan, they were adhering to how the process should have been followed. It was Rowley and Young who would ring the population, especially PNM supporters, cancel the convention, cancel because they knew Young was going to get licked up. And now they come now and foist this fella as the next prime minister, and the ground knows, especially PNM ground, knows that they have been hoodwinked, they have been conned. I call Rowley and Young the two biggest conmen this country has ever seen.
Yeah,
you cannot say. Go ahead, big brother.
Yeah, one of the things you said is that the PNM has once again betrayed their PNM constituencies in the worst way. And you said it has nothing to do with Mr. Young's ethnicity, but it's a fact that he simply cannot deliver. I had veteran journalist Ken Ali on before you, and I asked him, I said, no, what's going to be different now with Mr. Young? He has a lot on his plate to begin with. When you look at the economy, the Forex challenge, poor infrastructure, and the list goes on. We've lived it for the past 9 years. He's been there, part and parcel with it. What can we expect that is going to be different now?
Absolutely nothing. They can expect it to be worse. Young, because you see, Young has an arrogance that it's an attempt by him to match Rowley. Now he is throwing ensconced in the bosom of the 1%. That's why they put him there in the first place. I mean, Rowley could come and offer the country, but Rowley still takes his orders from people that we know put him there. And 91%. And these Syrian contractors who have cuddled Rowley, made him go against Patrick Manning in the worst way, in the most crass and vulgar way, to protect their interests. They put Young to do the same. Because, listen, these 1% people, they pay attention to the ground more than us. They know that Penelope Beckles, although she is part of the PNM, she will have a certain connection to the ground that none of them has. None of them have, including Rowley and Hines and all them blackface white mask people. She has a connection to the ground, and she would have been fundamentally this. Remember, she's a Mennonite. Penelope Beckles is a Mennonite. No, I mean, nobody can't tell anybody working for the PNM. Every day in our house, it was only PNM talk about all the intricacies. When Eric Williams needed something from Uncle Rudolph, it's up the hill he come in. And I looking on from my grandmother's house when he walking up Auntie Georgie's stairs. I know what's going on, so I know exactly what he's thinking. I am on the ground, and I know that the PNM, the ground, they're not happy. They mightn't say anything, but you will see how that will reflect itself come a general election.
You talk about the fact of the 1% and that economic control. And the thing about it is that I don't want to just simply glide over that. I think the time has come that I think the electorate needs to have a comprehensive breakdown of the whole operations that take place here, especially in our economy. So I need to ask the question, I mean, when you make these statements, don't you think it needs to be more in depth and coming from the UNC to explain Now, for many years, the electorate has been in the dark. Many would say 1% in passing, and not even understanding that that's not just an ethnicity. These are men and women who are engineered and driven by greed, who believe it is their God-given right to get everything, whether they invest in a campaign, whether they invest in a certain candidate, they are going to ask for something in return. And are we doing enough to educate the electorate to understand that you have the freedom to go out there and vote, but at the same time, someone is pulling the strings when it comes to getting preferential treatment that you may never get?
But there's a saying, Brother Mike. Is it truly a democracy when your vote, no matter how you vote, doesn't count? And that is what the PNM is trying to do. And let me break it down. I love how you went into that. Does the public really understand when they talk about the 1%? Let me explain for them. Especially the 1% that we have at present. Back in the day of Eric Williams, the PNM party, was engineered and constructed in such a way that what the people we now call 1%, this is comprised mainly of certain, and I don't want my Syrian brothers and sisters to think I talk about the whole community. There's some in that community. We have to address it frontally, as you said, and we cannot keep talking, as we say in Arabic, behind our hands. We have to talk about it frontally. The 1%, and it's not saying this about Barawaki. They said it thinking internationally, thinking nobody was listening in Trinidad and Tobago. They said to everybody, we are the 1%, we control the economy. And we have this and we have that. They were boasting because they're talking to a white man. So they open up their hearts. And they spoke what they spoke. So I'm not saying something you have invented, Mikey.
Right.
Brother Mikey, or me. They said it. We control the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We live nice. Trinidad has been good to us. But let me tell you how Trinidad has been good to us. Because my father and grandfather are Lebanese. Let me tell you how Trinidad has been good to them. They came here, like every other immigrant, and they worked hard. They became middle class, okay. At some point in time, with Eric Williams used members of that community as his bad men. Nobody can tell me about that. I know some of them who had to leave Trinidad and go Central America. So when PNM talking about UNC, I could call names, which I won't call now, because I know their families. They were bad men under Williams. Subsequently, when some of them in that community went into the illicit drug trade, look at the Scott Drug report, if you think it's not talking, no. They became richer than the PNM, than the government. And they moved from being bad men of the PNM to financiers of the PNM. Financiers of the PNM mean they began to control the PNM. And that is a fact. And that's very important, that evolution. Under Williams, under Chambers, and Marin tried to stop it a little bit by Kolahat, but they too had control of Marin to extent. So when Marin had Kolahat, brought somebody else in, what they do? They summon the barking dog, Rowley, to mash up Marin. No, nothing I'm telling you here is speculation. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Look at the evolution of some in that Syrian community. Look at the evolution of their money. Without inventing anything, they went in 20 years from being middle class to billionaires. Without inventing a thing. I can't remember if they invent something with Microsoft or Apple. I don't think so. You don't go from middle class from selling clothes or having business, from being middle class to billionaires in 20 years, and come and tell me, David Naked, you work hard and by shutting your brow and be jealous, and you could tell your other people in Trinidad to do that. You can't tell me that. I know how people become billionaires. It ain't no 20 years unless you invent something. Unless it's some kind of, other than that, it's some kind of funny money. And there's a little brief synopsis for the people to understand when you like 1%. And it's not only them, it's some in the French Creole community as well. You'll find very few African or Indians belong to that class. They control the
Senator.
There's a saying in politics, Brother Mikey. The people that you cannot speak about in a country are the people who control that country. I don't know if you ever heard that.
Yeah, I remember. Yes.
We cannot say anything about that community as we try to grapple with our existence and evolution. We cannot say anything without it jumping out. Without people protecting them jumping out who are not even in that community. Because they know what they're doing. But I am the one who will come and say it. And I can speak about them even more in depth and call more names without fear of a lawsuit. Because I know the whole history. Yeah. And I know it because when I lived in Lebanon, it was told to me by someone in the secret service there.
And my thing, Senator, is that, again, I think that there needs to be more sort of an aggressive communication process, so the electorate can understand that. I think the more we educate the electorate and let the electorate understand and give them whatever a virtual walkthrough of how things operate, how things go, so they can get a sense of empowerment. Because again, a lot of these things are said in passing. A lot of it is simply in transition, with people not understanding exactly what it is that takes place. They go out there, they vote, but at the end of it all, where's their piece of pie? Where's that little niche that they carve out for themselves? And as I was telling journalist Ken Ali, that the average man doesn't care where the elite lives or what car he drives or where he vacations, as long as he gets his. That's all that matters. Now, what he's supposed to get is under threat. Seriously under threat. It's not like before. I mean, we've had PNM administrations before where there was a sense or a perceived balance, social balance. That's gone. It's basically everything for one group and there's nothing left for anyone else. And that is the reality. How then do we educate the rest of the country to understand that your sense of belonging, your sense of being a citizen is something that you must go after because it's yours? You shouldn't feel left out. You shouldn't feel isolated when everyone else believes that their God-given right to own everything.
And that is the point right there, Brother Mikey. That is the point right there. Right now, the situation as we, so when you said about why I think you're alluding to why they are not seeing it.
Yeah.
They're not only seeing it right now, they're feeling it. Everybody right now, other than the 1%, they're feeling it. I don't care what they say. All these so-called petty bourgeoisie African who always supporting PNM, they're feeling it.
I agree with you. I think that's the best answer. The fact of the matter is that you're feeling that strain, you're feeling that pain, you're feeling the fact that whatever you had, whether it be your savings account that's depleted, you're feeling it, but you still lack the understanding of the genesis of that pain.
Yes, because I know one or two things. Some of the petty bourgeoisie who like to be African Friday, like Sasa Kamal and them, and somebody tell me today, a fellow from Laokita, my brother, he tell me, my brother from Laokita, he tell me the African Friday, so Sasa Kamal and them, see them just all in African garb, right? But when it was time to vote for Penny, they take off the African garb and put on the PNM rope. Mash up the girl, she put in a depression right now, and now come back. It's the same thing. That is what our petty bourgeoisie, they do. Because they don't care about anybody except themselves. They don't care. I always say they don't look towards the hills and see the suffering. They don't look towards the ground in Kukarik and in Bagatelle and see the suffering. They don't care. As long as they can get a nice little car to drive, they're on a board and things and PNM, that's it. But that is why we, Mikey, that is the gap and the vacuum we have to step in. The work you do, the work I do, to try and educate them. So I could keep telling them, look at your condition. Don't study when the petty bourgeoisie start to raise bait and tell you about PNM is black. What black? I think more than ever right now, Brother Mikey, as you just said, the ground has realized that the PNM has deserted them. The PNM has deserted the ground. More than ever, they see it now. Frontally, they see it right now. Writ large, supporters know that they listen. The UNC, not on this African Indian thing, everybody have a base in Trinidad. Every party have some kind of base in Trinidad today. It's that the problem. The problem is, will your policies and programs help everyone that's supposed to create that social balance that you are talking about? That we used to feel, no matter who was there, we used to feel was there. Now we know for sure it's not there. That's why you have so much crime. There's an imbalance in the society that the people are feeling and suffering, and they know that rowdy and young is not the solution. They know that for sure, and that is why the ground is rumbling. That is why I said that.
Thank you.
And let me go to the first point. And here comes this narcissist who only looking for work, who I don't know why people give him the time. He have about 5 people in the party. Shameless. His own party could say something about Young 2 days ago and then come back and say he's a leader. When he talk about he used to question Young, he come back and say Young, he never see nothing to question. You know, Gary Griffith is one of those people who lie so much he forget his lies. This is a man who I saw talk about people falling off a chair and come and try and say now, backtrack and say he never said that. You know, when the whole world know that Gary Griffith, who called black people children cockroaches, you believe that? A commissioner of police called black people children and Tobago cockroaches. You think I could ever forget that? Who are you talking about? He talking about my mother's family. He talking about my mother's side family. You feel I could forget that? Boy, no, brother Mikey K. Fire burn Gary Griffith, boy. Fire burn Gary Griffith. And Twiggy and them come out and say that today.
Senator, I want to thank you so much again for taking time out, linking with us here this evening. Best of luck as we move forward. We'll be checking in with you periodically. We have a lot to discuss, and I want to expand on this topic so the electorate could understand. I think it's our responsibility to let them know exactly what happens behind the scenes and the genesis of their pain and suffering, and why, when all of the negotiations take place, we as citizens are never invited to the political buffet. And the time for that has to end. Thank you so much again.
Wonderful. Thank you, big brother Mikey K. Take care. God bless.
Right. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. So much to discuss. And when you put things in perspective here, listening to the senator, again, I think people need to know, they need to understand what is happening. And what took place between 2010 and 2015 was highlighted, of course, by COP political leader Prakash Ramada saying, listen, you know, all this propaganda was so overwhelming that they controlled the narrative. Are you going to fall victim to that again? He said, listen, so much took place. So many policies and legislation was put into place dealing with transparency and accountability, but yet no one focused on that. Are you going to allow them to take all that you've accomplished again and just fill the heads of the electorate with propaganda and things that are meaningless to them? So I think he understands now, and I think moving forward, many of us understand. We know where the political minds are. We know exactly where to step, where not to step. But if we take 2010 and 2015 and expand on it, and let people understand that coming into office, for example, Pure, which is a part of the Ministry of Works, Pure had, I believe, either 10 or 12 contractors. Under Kamala Prasad-Visesa, it was open for the contractors to come in, other contractors that benefited. So many of these policies were open now. It wasn't about people saying, this belongs to me and this is mine. No. This belongs to the people who can actually come out, make an application, tender for something, get the job, and get paid for it. Now, that's all gone. So people need to understand that when, you know, you're talking about the changes that need to come about, but the changes were there. They were there. The changes did happen. How many of you went to the registry, you know, right in Port of Spain, and you went upstairs on any given day, and sometimes there was a long line people coming there to live their entrepreneurial dream, to say, listen, I want to open this, I want to open that. Whether it was a mini mart and I want to convert that into a grocery, or I want to do something. They were there. There were so many people at the registry. Now it's not like that anymore. People are not inspired. The economy is stagnant. People are afraid to let go of their dollar because they're not sure if they're going to get back 75 cents. And that's what we have to deal with. And I think that's where the conversation needs to be. I mean, it's easy to get on a platform and talk about the ills of this and the shortcomings of that. But at the same time, if we do not educate the electorate, then we are simply just spinning top in mud. They need to know why your life is the way it is. And if you want to live better, the things that you need to do. What do you need to do for Trinidad and Tobago? And once you put that at the forefront, then you will be putting at the forefront what you can do for each and every one of us as citizens. Does the answer lie with Stuart Young? He's been there for almost, 9+ years. He knows where all the political mishaps are. He knows where all the political bodies are buried. He was there. It was under his watch. He was right there. He was side by side. He was the Gary Sobers. He was the babysitter. He was the man that after a while was like good enough to be acting prime minister. Did he do anything different? No. So when you revisit 2010 to 2015 and you look at it, then you'll have a clear idea that what was there simply needs to be expanded. Master Control, you have something there? What is that? Thank you so much. Oh, Jenny C. Thank you so much, Jenny C. Great point. Thank you, Jenny C. And all the good folks who are locked on. I know there's another meeting going on tonight. I understand that. But you can always, of course, catch the playback of this show. And as well, you know, the interviews will be out before midnight tonight. So we are going to share that with you. So you will have that as well. I want to thank you so much. Until tomorrow, remember, we are past observing. The action is here. We're in the action. This is the action. Prepare yourself if you want to live better. Until tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, same time, right here, Guile TV, Real Media, Facebook, YouTube, we are out of here. Have a good one.
The Observer.